Come with me if you want to learn how to put this pin together. I'm Steph from Jack and Steph's workshop, and I promise I won't do any more voices. Your kit will come with an LED, well, actually 2 LEDs, but we'll get to that later, a resistor, a battery holder, the pin and the pin back, and of course, the Santanator. Since this pin is going to be handled, it's important to use a lead-free solder. And if you don't have lead-free solder and you're sitting there deciding to use it anyway, maybe you could put a clear coat of nail polish on top, but lead's not good. It's easiest to do the decorating on the Santa pin first, I found, because once the components are on the back, it doesn't sit flat on your desk anymore. So we'll start with a significant glob of solder. And by the way, the pin will heat up a lot because of how much soldering we're doing. So be careful about the kind of surface that you're soldering on. Have something protective underneath it. And, watch out for your fingers and stuff. So the trick here is to put on solder heavily into the areas that we want to jump out at us. So I do the chest plate, and I do the forehead, and I do the cheek, and then I also do the chin, and I touch up just in a few other places to my satisfaction. Then I let the pin cool. I let my soldering iron cool down a little bit, and I give some cool bullet wounds on the chest plate. They don't look like much now, but once we age and weather, they'll really pop out. So speaking of which, I just use a plain old permanent marker, and I color in the front rather liberally. Pay special attention to the low areas because the next step is going to be rubbing this off with a solvent, and the low areas is where the ink will stay behind, which is going to give us our cool aged and dirty killer machine appearance. I also like to color in the backside of the battery, well, part of the backside, because the battery shows through the cutouts in the front, and coloring in the back of the battery really helps with the illusion of depth. When you're ready to take the ink off, a gentle solvent will do the trick. I didn't have any, so I'm using a lighter fluid, but something like rubbing alcohol would be good, or maybe a citrus-based solvent. Acetone, I think, will probably take off the solder mask, the red part, so maybe don't use that. But just go over lightly on the top, and you'll end up with a pretty cool result pretty quickly. And then once you're happy, flip it over, and we're ready to do the components on the back. I find it's easiest to start with the pin. And so you'll see this is just a matter of globbing even more solder onto this project. And do be sure to get all the way around so that it's got a good mechanical connection. And the next thing that we're going to do is apply a lesser glob, but still, a little bit of solder to the negative battery pad, because this part needs to make good stiff connection with the underside of the battery. So it wants to be raised up a little bit. And we'll also apply, as per usual on this project, fairly hefty globs to the pads for the resistor and LED. There's only 3. They share the middle pad. Next comes the battery holder, and that will go on the sides. Again, be generous. It's that time of year, I think. So also be sure when you heat this up, try to heat both the leg of the battery holder and the pad at the same time, because if you only heat the pad, you could sometimes get a weak mechanical connection and the battery compartment could pop off. All right. Next up will be the resistor, and we'll just bend one of the leads like this around in kind of a U shape and just tack it right onto this pad here. The reason for this physical arrangement is that the body of the resistor serves to block the battery from going too far up. And so it's soldered on this way to try and, ensure mechanical strength, because the resistor is really kind of part of the battery holder, really. I take off the legs at this point, and now we'll have to choose what kind of LED we want. The kit comes with 2, a blinking and a solid one. Partially because if something goes wrong with one, you can at least have a backup, but also, you can put the light through the Santanator and decide which one you want to use. The coin cell battery is the easy way to test which one is which, but the blinky one has slightly longer legs. So for bending this into place, don't bend it right at the plastic head. Bend the leg slightly above the plastic head, like so. And the reason is because it's more fragile if you bend it right down low at the base. So your LED should look something like this, and it is ready to be inserted through the hole. The next step is to bend these legs down a little bit because they'll be riding a little high. I just use my fingernail to kind of press them down towards the pad. That'll just make it a bit easier to solder. But of course, the body of the LED does protrude from the front. So I put down my clippers and I use the handle to lift the project up off my desk so that I can more easily do the solder. Big glob, as per usual, on both sides. And you'll be good to go. By the way, everybody, we're nearing the end of this the project. You've done such a great job. If you want to test your work, now's a good time. You can just stick your battery in. You should see your LED blink. And also notice how the resistor here keeps our battery in perfect alignment for the cutouts on the backside. Now we can do a little bit of cleanup. I'll just take my clippers here and remove the lead from this side of the LED. And, let's not remove the other side, because if we bend this leg of the LED down towards the positive connection of the battery holder, we can see a cool extra layer of depth on the backside of the pin. Now, don't forget to take out your battery now, because the next step is going to be to reheat that battery holder solder and just attach the leg of the LED to it. They're both the positive leg of the battery, so electrically this is neutral. This is purely decoration. And speaking of which, don't forget to age it so it looks aged like the rest of the robot does. That looks pretty cool to me. Now we can just take off that lead and have a look at our completed project. That's the last of it. We are now ready to put in our battery and check out our finished Santanator pin. Wow. We did it.